The following is a presentation of iRacing on PTR TV. We'd like to thank all of our channel partners for their support. Please like and subscribe to the channel, and we hope you enjoy today's broadcast.
You know, this is a track that I'm very familiar with, and if you wonder why I'm familiar with it, you just need to remember that I am a Max Verstappen fan at heart. The Dutch national anthem, the circuit Zandvoort, it's something I'm familiar with. It's something I like to call home, because this is a track that I've put way too many hours in iRacing and in Formula games to try to learn, just hoping to find a bit of time. It's twisty. It's right off of the sand of the beaches here in the Netherlands, and it produces some amazing racing here. We're going to see what Elbows Out can do this week to produce some amazing racing. Of course, they always have a great time, but this is a track that a lot of the drivers have admittedly said they are not as familiar with as maybe other tracks in the season. And to tell you what, this is the last regular round here, 60 minutes to come, and they have 60 minutes to put it all out on the track. Welcome, everybody, to PTR TV here for the penultimate round of Elbows Out Racing. Qualifying is truly well and underway here as we get things going. It's going to be myself, Brad Dalton, in the booth, and I am joined by Patrick Coleman. You've heard him a few times throughout the season, and let me tell you, you're going to hear him tonight again. An F1 aficionado like myself. He is someone that knows a lot about this track and about what it has to produce. Patrick, good evening, my friend. How are you?
I am doing fantastic. It's always awesome to come here to Elbows Out Racing. They've always had certified bangers. When I have been commentating and when I haven't been commentating, Elbows Out is always a fun watch. And yeah, like you said, this track is a tricky one. It is very twisty. There's barely probably a singular meter where everything is the same elevation. Constant elevation changes here on this track, and there are some really good spots to make overtakes, but you really got to pick your moment, because there's other points of this track, specifically after turn 1, that is so tricky to navigate, and I think these GTP drivers really got the work cut out for them.
Yeah, I don't know that I envy the GTP drivers today. They have a challenge worked out because, you know, the one thing beyond that, you know, just the challenge of the track itself, the undulation, the up and down, the curves, the tight hairpins, the making sure you don't bend it into turn 5, the making sure you watch the sausage curves here. You know, let's throw in traffic in the mix. Traffic is going to be a problem as well. And when you make traffic included as well, making a whole nother problem, I mean, that just gets that much more interesting, which really makes things fun.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, like I said, there's some spots that are really good to overtake. Like the last corner is a good overtaking spot, and you can overtake around the outside on some of these corners. And it's one of the few tracks where sometimes the outside line is the ideal line. I think turn 2 is a good example of that. Sometimes we've seen quite a few overtakes on that part of the track, but the margin of error here is very, very slim. Now, there's a lot of gravel on this track, so very unforgiving if you run a bit too wide, like we just saw Parker Chiapuzio almost do right there, coming out of the final corner here at Circuit Zandvoort. And yeah, I think, like you said, I really don't envy these GTP drivers in the slightest either. I mean, but the GT3 drivers are also going to have it pretty tough, because there's not a lot of spots where you can make a very good overtake without risking it, and without risking putting your car into the gravel, into the wall, into each other. And then you throw in that you have to get out of the way for the prototypes, so it's a double-edged sword here. But I think we're going to have some fun here tonight, because while it's not easy to overtake on this track, when you do see an overtake, it is 10 out of 10 cinema.
I can tell you right now, this is this is going to have some highlight clips through it. Now, if you were with us last night, of course, for area iRacing's All-Star race, you saw a side-by-side 0.000 finish for the win of the main event last night to crown the All-Star winner. Of course, plenty clips of that will be up and coming on the channel, but I have a feeling that this race is going to give us some good moments here. Ethan Murphy trying to bring that GT3 Pro Porsche across the line, brings it across with a 135.0, puts himself P6 in class. So he is finding some time here as we have Antonio Costa still trying to find some time in the Cadillac. We've had a couple drivers change what cars they're in here tonight versus previous weeks here. Eric Mack, return of the Mack, is going to be in a Caddy, has ditched the BMW. And then, of course, Dwight has switched from the GT3 to switched to the Acura from the Porsche hypercar. So those are the two manufacturer changes we have going through. So Dwight Hibbs and Eric Mack switching around. They just, maybe it's a better feel in a different car for this track versus others. But of course, when they do that, they do take a minor points penalty here. But, Patrick, honestly, it's kind of worth it. If you feel better in a car versus another one, it's kind of worth taking the points penalty.
Yeah, because at that point, the punishment is pretty much outweighed by the reward. So, I mean, the biggest thing is that you're going to have the best results when you are the most comfortable and when you're the most confident in your machinery. And sometimes the one thing that you need to do to kind of go ahead and, if you feel like you're kind of in a rut, the one thing that you need to do to try to get yourself out of the rut is try something a little different. Try to do something a little different than you normally do. They say that the definition of insanity is trying the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different result. But sometimes you just need that one minor change and then it could really help out. So it is a minor points penalty. You are correct as we wrap up qualifying, but you can make up so many more points if you are in a car that you feel confident in.
And I'll be honest with you, the confidence alone is worth it. So we'll see what happens here as we get ready to form up this grid for, again, the penultimate round here of Elbows Out. Next week will be the season finale here for 2025 Season 2, and they'll take on 90 minutes of Circuit Zandvoort. But before they can do that, they got to get through this. So let's take you down this PTR TV starting lineup for the run here. And as we bring that up on screen, it's Colin Bourdon who holds the lead here in GTP and will be your pole sitter. Matt Toppin in second place, Antonio Costa P3, Aiden Garcia P4, Bob Carey in fifth, Ben Bechtel in sixth, with Eric Mack and Dwight Hibbs in seventh and eighth. Your 8 GTP cars on the field. GT3 Pro, you've got 8 GT3 Pros taking on this track today. Martin Merkva will be in the lead with Brian Medderly in second, Daniel Pinero in third, Zachary Nerney in fourth, Callan Tobin in fifth, Ethan Murphy in P6. From there we go seventh place, Tyler Stanek and Chris Stewart in P8. GT3 AM lines up as follows. Nathan Hemperly will be in the lead of this pack with Emily Milke in P2, Christopher Ondera in third, Parker Chiapuzzo in fourth place, Matthew Santor-Sierro P5, Kylan Bruce P6. From there we go seventh place, Balselman, Kyle O'Grady P8, and Andrew Parker will round out the 9 cars in GT3 AM. 60 minutes of action to come up. Will it be Benjamin Bechtel here in that gold and purple Porsche, or Cadillac, not a Porsche, put some respect on the Cadillac's name. Will he be able to find time forward? Colin Bourdon kicking it off from pole here for the first time with Matt Toppin in the Cadillac beside. Acura, Cadillac, Acura, your top 4. I'm not going to ask for any final predictions here, Patrick, but I'm going to ask for a final prediction. Who's your winner in GTP? Who's your winner in Pro? Who's your winner in AM?
Ooh. Well, the last time I said this at Daytona, it went very sideways very quickly. I believe I predicted Aaron Mack, and he ended up DNFing within the early stages of the race. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say that Matt Toppin is going to be the race winner for the GTP category. He's had some pretty solid results this season, and I think he'll be the one to navigate this traffic the best and secure victory in that Cadillac.
All right. I'll take that one. GT3 Pro. I am going to go ahead and put my money on Tyler Stanek to drive from last to first. Well, from P7 to P1. I think Tyler Stanek is fast in that Mustang. The Mustang maybe not the best option here for Zandvoort, considering, it's a Mustang. It likes to go straight. And then I'm going to be real honest with you. Emily Milke has been so fast in the Amfield. I feel like this is one of those, if you bet against Emily, you're probably wrong. So don't bet against Emily. Eric Mack will be taking a pit lane start here. Dwight Hibbs is showing here actually in the GT3 field. So Dwight Hibbs showing on the GTP category, but is indeed in GT3. So that's a little bit of a mismatch there. We will get that corrected here momentarily as they go through and around. And yeah, I think Antonio Costa is going to be one to watch there in that number 13. Antonio's been fast, so just keep your eyes there. Looking at weather here in Zandvoort, 72-degree air, 101-degree track, 1 p.m. virtual time, partly cloudy with 14-mile-an-hour winds. No surprise there from anyone to see the weather be in the condition it's in. Everybody's coming through. We've got that gap between the GTPs and the GT3s here as they go, and we'll see how it all lines up as we continue to pace here. And very rare we see a full formation lap here in Elbows Out, but Zandvoort's such a short track, we just kind of get the benefit of it there.
Yeah, indeed. And these drivers are going to get their tires warmed up, which, considering that the temperature is over 100 degrees on track, it's probably not that hard to get these tires warmed up. Although in recent times, it's been a few months now at this point, but we do know that iRacing did change how the tire warm-up feels for these prototypes in particular. So it's just going to be a little bit of a struggle for these cars because, there's so many twists and turns on this track that, you just, like we saw in practice earlier, you take one little mistake and you are off into the gravel, and even if you don't end up in the wall, you're still going to lose quite a chunk of time. And if you want to win this race, then you really got to be spot on, because like I said earlier, this margin for error is basically non-existent as we go ahead and round out the final corner before we get going here with the penultimate round here at Elbows Out Racing.
It's me, Brad, here in the booth with Patrick. We're going to bring you along for 60 minutes of action here. GTPs have control, and they are underway. Colin Bourdon with a great getaway there, heading towards turn 1 for 60 minutes here of racing. They get away very well. That's going to mix things up, but GT3s are the ones to watch. Nathan Emberley in the lead here as they go side by side. Matt Toppin roaring in anger. 3 wide, Emily Milke to the inside on Dara and Martin Merkfa going through. I think everyone has made it through in the GT3 field as well for this race start. Kyle O'Grady through, and Bob Carey going very slow there in GTPs. It loses it through turn 5. Hold it to the high line, and that's going to be...
Unfortunate there. Yeah, that was unfortunate. Well, there's Eric Mack. We saw him momentarily. Oh, is he going to get the... Oh, no, he gets collected by the Porsche and the Mustang. That is... Like we said earlier, that margin of error is so small that even someone else's mistake can collect you, as we're on board now with the number 33 Mustang. Well, now we're on the number 16 car. Matthew Santos Sierra, the number 16 McLaren. Currently 14th overall, 5th in class. But, yeah, it's really unfortunate there. Bob Carey, Eric Mack, they all really just kind of got tangled up into that little bit of contact there. And like we said earlier, the margin of error on this track is non-existent. So if you make any kind of mistake, that's going to be all she wrote for your race. And it's unfortunate, but although I don't think officially we have any DNFs yet, so that is a good thing. But Bob Carey, Eric Mack, and I believe Callan Tobin and Ethan Murphy are all going to be really struggling here in the later stages of that race.
Bob Carey.
Yeah. Unfortunate stuff there.
All right, let's queue up a PTR TV replay here really quick. Lap 1 is through, and these laps go very quick, I will say. But before we do that, we still have a battle up front for the lead as it stands. So we have our leader who is currently trying to hold on, going through Bourdon, trying to battle it out with Antonio Costa. I said Costa was one to watch here. Let's see what happens as they come through. Gaps, just a rate of nothing as they come through. Couple tenths separating here, couple tenths separating there. And you can see trying to set up the pass as much as possible. Just quickly through down the inside. Antonio Costa able to get the pass done and do a great job of doing that. So Antonio Costa now passed Colin Bourdon there and will try to run away with it. So pass for the lead. Done and dusted, very much so here early on. Now, that battle for the lead sorted out. Let's go back. Let's get a PTR TV replay really quick of what just happened here on lap 1, turn 1, and possibly the couple of corners to follow here. Because there was a lot.
Yeah, indeed. There's quite a bit of drama here. Oh, he just lost it on his own, and then yeah, I mean, there wasn't too much else he could have really done. I mean, I don't think he would have had enough time to really back it up and try to full send reverse. And oh, wow. The Mustang actually just collided with Callan Tobin there. Oh, no, Callan Tobin is the car we're on board with. Yeah, so he just kind of backs up into the Porsche here as the Porsche tries to get away, and boop, just a little bit of extra damage. But yeah, I mean, especially on the opening stages of this race, and there's Callan Tobin there in the 923 Mustang, just running into the spinning BMW of Bob Kerr. He backs up into Ethan Murphy, and that is going to be all she wrote for Kyle O'Grady. I think he's in the pits now, but yeah, it's just a bit of an unfortunate incident here in this race. But I mean, when you have a lot of cars trying to go through that corner at the same time, sometimes those incidents are a bit inevitable. But oh, and Eric Mack just gets pinched like a zit. He got through, but I think he just got a little bit tagged there right at the end. It's just really unfortunate. Oh, and another bump.
So that
between
was
Callan Tobin and Bob Carey.
Yeah, so that was Bob Carey coming through. That was his second moment we saw. And here's Kyle O'Grady had a moment a bit later in the lap, and that's what's taking Kyle O'Grady out. Just a hard run nose into the barrier here as we go back to live pictures now here out of our replays. And let's go back to live pictures. Let's check in on who's where. And as we come back here, Kyle O'Grady trying to hold on here, fighting it out with Callan Tobin in the background, as that is already our race leader, Antonio Costa, who is working his way around. So lap traffic already becoming a factor here, and we're 5 minutes into a 60-minute race. I tell you what, there's going to be a lot of lap traffic to come through as we've got Kylan Bruce here in P5 trying to take on Parker Chiapuzzo in P4 in GT3 AM.
Yeah, you said it earlier. This is a very short track, and I mean, Antonio Costa, got to give it to him. He's already pulled about a 3-second gap to Colin Bourdon here as we see a battle here with Chris Stewart, the number 515 Porsche, and Matthew Santosiero in the number 16 McLaren. He's losing a few positions now. And Parker Chiapuzzo, ooh, someone's going wide there. That is Matthew Santosiero in that number 16 McLaren. And Tyler Stenick also getting involved in this battle here. I mean, there's just battles all over the place. I mean, and that's what we were kind of expecting in this race coming into, is that traffic was going to play a factor as we now check in on Benjamin Bechtel, the number 28 Cadillac. The purple and gold Cadillac as he goes through the final banked corner here on Zandvoort. They're both going to try to put pedal to the metal, get through this lap traffic. But, I mean, I know Zandvoort's a short track, but I honestly wasn't expecting to see the lap traffic this early on.
Yeah, and as we watch here, this is him trying to chase down Aiden Garcia. And just watch how they handle the traffic as they come through. This is what's really kind of caught my eyeball so early. And again, we knew lap traffic would be a thing, right? Like, we kind of knew that this was coming in, but I wasn't expecting it to this degree, this fast. Usually it's about 10 minutes before we really see lap traffic giveth and lap traffic taketh away here. Ben Bechtel coming through, down, around, and I mean, look at this, hard on the brakes coming through. not a great representation, really, of fighting traffic. This is just him coming through. Let's get on board really quick with actually our race leader, Costa, who is now into some clean air coming through. That you could see the difference between when you've got clean air here, and if we jump back here with Matt Toppin, who is trying to currently get past the stricken car, and Eric Mack, who is actually fighting through traffic, trying to just get up in the overall run. I mean, Eric Mack is really having a time here as he goes through and around, and he's just trying to find something, somewhere, somehow to carve this Cadillac through, as he started from the pit lane, is in 6th place in class, and is continuing to try to work his way forward here. Gets around Zachary Nerney, who of course dropped from GTP to GT3 last week. I talked to him a bit during the the week between races about the decision to do that, and he said it's a case of he feels like he'll be more competitive. He just didn't feel like this, the gap was there, that the ability was there in the GTP, and he wants to race more officials and kind of be a bit more competitive. So Zachary Nerney swapping in to that Chevrolet and is already enjoying it here as he goes. Nathan Hemperly still trying to chase down Emily Milke up front. This is for the overall GT3 P2 that they're battling it out for. The lead in GT3 Pro, or GT3 Am, they're battling it out for here, Patrick, and they continue to push, go through, and you can see you can set up passes pretty quick here, but it's a matter of making it stick.
Yeah, I mean, you can set up passes in quite a few spots on the track, but executing those passes, especially in some of the twistier sections around, like, say, Sector 1 and a little bit of Sector 2, is way easier said than done. And we're seeing that now from Eric Mack, who, granted, he is in a faster car. He's in that GTP, but he doesn't really have a clear enough angle to really get past these GT3s. And these GT3s are going to still fight tooth and nail, as we are watching the battle between Martin Merkva and Nathan Hemperly competing. They're both in P2 in their respective classes, with Martin Merkva in the GT3 Pro category, and then Nathan Hemperly in that GT3 Am category. They're both fighting it out now. This would be for 9th overall on track, but they are in P2 currently in their respective classes. About half a second separates them. But there's not really any good spots to overtake in this part of the track. I mean, honestly, the next best part to really try to make an overtake stick is at the massive final banked corner on this track. But if Hemperly isn't too careful, Christopher Ondera is going to be very keen to snap up on any incident that these drivers make.
And Christopher Ondera not far behind this 3-car battle here. Emily Milke in the lead with Merkva, Hemperly through. They're all very strong in pace right now as they continue to battle here. We're only 10 minutes into this 60-minute race, but things have been shaken up very, very quickly as we go through. Benjamin Bechtel, by the way, just a little check-in here, has had a bit of a moment and is still continuing on, is currently about a second and a half off of Matt Toppin, trying to battle through. Kind of just looking through the field here. Everyone is continuing to really push their way through and try to find time, try to find something somewhere, as Emily runs well off the track here. Holds on to it. But I'll tell you right now, that's not what Emily wanted to do with that Porsche, as that hands over the GT3 Am lead to Nathan Hemperly, who is now right on the back of Martin Merkva for P2 in the overall GT3 battle.
Yeah, like I said earlier, as soon as somebody makes a mistake, there's going to be somebody right there to capitalize it. Earlier, I was saying it was Christopher Ordona, but Emily did lose quite a few positions there during that moment. And, I mean, the funny thing is about that is that Martin Merkva and Nathan Hemperly just kept battling on like nothing happened. They just said, oh, anyways. And they resumed their battle for the P2 overall in the GT3s, amongst the GT3s, and Benjamin Bechtel is making a pit stop. Curious to see what that was about. I feel it's a bit early for these pit stops to come in, but maybe there's a strategy masterclass in the works, or probably the more likely thing is that there's damage.
It's not ideal to be taking a pit stop this early, but of course, remember, the rule here in Elbows Out is you must take one 4-tire pit stop anytime during this race. So one mandatory tire change pit stop is required. You have to make sure that you take 4 tires. So we'll see how the drivers do as they go and battle this one out. Christopher Ondera trying to battle with Emily Milke, the Porsche versus Porsche battle here. And I'm going to be honest, I really like the colors of that number 876/60 a lot more. Nothing against Weber Grills or against Christopher Ondera, but I just like that color of blue. We'll see if Emily Milke can take that milk bottle blue and bring it forward here. I know that's not really a milk bottle blue. That's more of like a sky blue. It's not a Miami blue. It's more of like a I don't know what shade blue that is. I'll figure that one out later on. Just like I had the battle about what manufacturer runs what tires a couple weeks ago, and the answer was it depends on what spec of car they're running. Look at the gravel there on the corner out of the exit of the third to last corner as they come around. That is ridiculous, but it shows you just how precise this track demands you to be as we run through, and battles continue on here. Things continue to happen, and at this point, I think if you're Nathan Hemperly even here, who's trying to find Martin Merkva, but especially if you're Emily here and you look off your gearbox at that hornet's nest of cars behind, you're probably feeling pretty nervous at this point.
Yeah, but you just got to make sure that those nerves don't get to you and don't force you into an unforced error. Because like you said earlier, you have to be so precise and so on the ball when it comes to Zandvoort. You touched the gravel one time, and we saw earlier with Emily, you touch gravel one time, and that gravel just pulls you like a magnet pulling a small metal object. You just get magnetized into that gravel, and your race could really take a hit if it doesn't end altogether. As we're on board now with Chris Stewart, who is in a good little battle himself with Zachary Nerney. And also, not too far up the road for them is Daniel Panaro. So these drivers are all going to be fighting. And once again, if one of these drivers makes a mistake, there's going to be 5 or 6 other drivers ready to capitalize on that mistake. As once again, they're going to head to the really twisty technical part of sector number 2. As they just go ahead and try to navigate, but it is still quite a long ways to go. We're just under 15 minutes of the way through, a little under 25% done with this race, and there's still a lot of racing to go. So, you can make an aggressive move, but you really got to think about the long haul here at Zandvoort.
You really do, and listen, there are tons of battles happening right now. If you go through, I've highlighted it there on the overall board. Emily Milke really starts out this big group of battles that come through. Ondera, Panaro, Nerney, Stewart, all really battling it out. Multiple for class, multiple not for class as they come around. But you can see even then, if we go back up front really quick, what is happening up here just behind these guys as they come through? Well, it is a battle for the overall lead that is starting to form again as they go. So you've got Antonio Costa, Colin Bourdon, that were separated by under a second. But now guess what? Traffic giveth, traffic taketh away. And traffic is about to give us a battle for the overall lead as you come up to Emily Milke, Ondera, Panaro, Nerney, Stewart. These 5 that are battling it out so hard. Well, here comes Colin Bourdon. And Colin Bourdon, I tell you what, is going to be feeling very, very feisty. So just watch here as they go. This is gonna start to battle out really quick here between Bourdon and Costa. How does Bourdon get through the traffic though? Again, there's all that gravel I was talking about as they come through and battle through. You've got ahead of them again, just Nerney, Stewart, all going. You want to get past, but you don't want to interfere in the battle. So what do? You just settle in and then you send it around here and get a great pass, honestly, through. As you see Zach Nerney, Chris Stewart, but Colin Bourdon lost 4 seconds there. That gap to first from under a second to over 4 seconds now. That is how hard that traffic can affect your race.
Like you said earlier, as it is a biblical scripture of racing, and Colin Bourdon goes a bit wide there shortly after passing the Corvette. No damage yet, but that was definitely a Code Brown moment. As I was about to say, traffic giveth and traffic taketh away. gravel nail land, it just does not care about you. It doesn't care about your tires. It does not care about your feelings. It just cares about pulling any car that dares touch it to just send them to the Shadow Realm or back to the main menu of iRacing, which, I mean, especially with this being like the penultimate race of the season, regardless of where you are, whether you're fighting for a championship, fighting for a specific spot, or just trying to go out on a high note, all these points are gonna matter. There's only one more race after this.
Indeed, there's only one more, and of course that will be next week. That will be 90 minutes around the Nürburgring. That's going to be a good one to watch here as we see Chris Stewart trying to go around and battle it out with the 0-1 of Daniel Pinheiro. Daniel Pinheiro just absolutely, pun intended, gets the elbows out and says, no, you don't. Not yet. You will not pass. You shall not pass, sir. And now into turn one, do we have the dive to the inside? We surely do. Is he there? He's there side by side. A little later on the brakes in the Porsche versus the Chevy Corvette. Now side by side out of turn one and down. We continue. Porsche to the outside, Corvette to the inside, but it turns inside to outside. Porsche trying to hold on. Down into turn five, and Chris Stewart runs it very high there, but now let's just invite Zachary Nerney into the mix here. And Tyler Stanek, the more they battle, as Zachary Nerney and Stanek go side by side and try to battle it out. Chris Stewart's going to run away. This battle will continue on.
Yeah, all these drivers are fighting tooth and nail on this track. We're seeing even some very unconventional lines around this track. But once again, knocking at the doors of these GT3 cars is a prototype hypercar. Sitting behind that is that's Aiden Garcia, the number 799 Acura. Now coming to the sea of GT3 cars ahead. And he's really got to pick his moment, and he picked a fantastic moment to start speeding past these GT3 cars, because this corner right here that he went on is such a hard corner to honestly even take properly in dirty air, let alone try to go for an overtake here. But surely behind Aiden Garcia and the sea of GT3 cars is Matt Toppin in that number 50 Cadillac. So the IMSA battle between Acura and Cadillac will continue here very, very shortly, as Chris Stewart is getting passed up by the GT3 cars, making their way through. And then once again, these GT3 drivers have been giving us a mighty fine show here tonight at Zandvoort. Tyler Stanek trying to chase down the number one Corvette of Daniel Pinheiro. Just one spot ahead. This would be for P4 in class. So it's interesting to see how these battles are forming and how they play out. Because regardless of how fast you are and how good you're battling, there's going to be a GTP behind you sooner rather than later that will go ahead and be a factor in these battles.
It's so much fun to watch and see how this ends up as they go. Currently, this battle for fourth in GT3 Pro, big battle on the night as they stand, and that is, of course, led off by Daniel Pinheiro here, the leading 01 Chevy Corvette, as he goes through Stanek. I told you Stanek's fast. Stanek has only worked his way up into fifth in the GT3 Pro category, but still plenty of time to race here. Only 20 minutes in to this 60-minute race, so count nobody out yet as they continue along here. Gaps continuing to form, battles continuing to develop. And I'll tell you what, we're 20 minutes in. Let's go ahead and get a run-through of each of our classes as they stand. Overall, currently it's Antonio Costa in the race lead by 10 seconds. Is where he currently stands here over Colin Bourdon in second, Aiden Garcia in third, Matt Toppin in fourth, Eric Mack in fifth, and then Dwight Hibbs, Bob Carey, Ben Bechtel, your other cars in class, respectively. 8 cars in this GTP category, which I still don't feel like that's right, because I feel like there was somebody who was showing in GTP who wasn't in GTP. Maybe I'm wrong there. As we go into the GT3 Pro category, Brian Metterly currently holds a 3.9 second gap over Martin Merkva, trying to chase things down. Chris Stewart there in third. And then from there we go Tyler Stanek, Zachary Nerney, Daniel Pinero and Ethan Murphy trying to battle things out as they stand. So that's really where that one goes, is that gap has spread out between Stanek, Nerney, and Stewart. Not sure what happened there, but they have opened things up quite a bit as they go along here. Now, GT3 AM category, here is where they currently stand. And currently your leader is Nathan Hemperly in GT3 AM as we get the proper leaderboard to display. Here we go. So Nathan Hemperly, your current leader, by 5 seconds over Emily Milke, with Christopher Ondera in third, Parker Chiapuzzo in fourth, Seth Fosselman in fifth, Matthew Sanchez-Sierro, Kyle O'Grady, and Kylan Bruce, the 8 drivers in the GT3 AM category. So drivers continuing to push and battle here. Chris Stewart trying to chase down Christopher Ondera for P10 overall. We'll see how that battle develops as they go respectively here. But always interesting to kind of see how classes mix up, how things go, as Chris Stewart will get that run up the inside, try to get the pass done, try to clear things out, and is still trying to battle Christopher Ondera. Christopher Ondera there blocks high, blocks low, and you know, when you got the pros and the AMs duking things out, it makes me excited for next season to kind of see how the GT3s will reshuffle between the pro and AM category.
Oh yeah, because there's a lot of very talented drivers that are honestly pro level, like what we're seeing from Christopher Ondera here. He is definitely a pro level driver, and seeing these drivers who are in this amateur category getting promoted to that pro category, it's always really awesome to see. It's the same kind of feeling of like, if your kid graduates from kindergarten and then goes into middle school, or from high school to college, it just makes you, even though granted we are in no way related to any of these drivers, at least as far as I'm aware, you always feel proud of these drivers that you watched develop over the course of a season, and they finally get their shot into the pro category, or we might even see some of these drivers jump up to the GTPs. It's going to make next season really, really interesting, and I'm honestly looking forward to it.
I would like to just point out that typically you don't go from kindergarten to middle school. Typically you go preschool, kindergarten, and then first grade. So if you're jumping kindergarten to middle school, you are a classic Sheldon Cooper. So if you somehow manage to do that, congratulations. You have impressed me nonetheless. But we continue along here in the racing, and it's Zachary Nerney that I want to check in on here. 5th in class, currently showing about 4 seconds back from Tyler Stanek, who is watching this battle between Ondera and Stewart continue to develop as they run through, and Ondera still holding off Chris Stewart here as they continue along. This battle is just continuing to get feisty as they go. I think we've hit that middle phase of the race here, and we always talk about this week after week, but you know, if this is your first time watching, first off, make sure you like, subscribe, ring the bells. We're trying to get to 1,700 subscribers, just need a little bit of help to get there. But second of all, welcome. This is the point, kind of middle of the race, where you see drivers kind of tone back about 10-15%, and it's nothing bad. It is just the case of the drivers kind of do what the drivers do, and they bring it back a little bit, unless you're like Eric Mack or you're someone who's absolutely having to drive the daylights out of your car. They tune it back. They're just trying to get to the pit stop. They're trying to get to the point where they can settle in and really make the long run last, because they know at this point they have to get to the end.
Indeed, and also, to add to that, when it comes to this multi-class racing, it's really divided into 4 major sections that you really need to put your attention towards. And now these percentages will vary depending on what stage of the race you're in, but usually you have to focus on your race pace, your management, so like your tires and your fuel, your strategy, and then in particular for multi-class racing, you also have traffic to navigate. You really got to deal with those 4 main factors, and sometimes the management takes a bigger priority than the pace. Other times, if you're in the case of Eric Mack, then the pace takes more of a precedent. If you're Antonio Costa, who we're on board with, traffic management is going to be your #1 priority. So there's 4 major things you really got to prioritize, but those priorities shift lap by lap by lap as Antonio Costa coasts on through very briskly past the GT3 car. And now he's just going to chase the next GT3 car that he will have to briskly pass on. But yeah, that's the reason I absolutely love this multi-class racing here at Elbows Out.
So that is Vosselman in the 143 there, and you see just parked on the apex. Definitely not ideal for Costa, but Costa takes the patient approach and just sort of settles it in and says, all right, I'll get past you just the easier way then, and gets his way through. Great run there from Costa as Costa sends it down into the final chicane here on the track. Mind the sausage curves to the outside. Watch the gravel to the inside if you can. Does a great job doing so. And Costa, you have a 14-second lead, my friend. There's no need to push too hard here as we go. That was a car sitting stationary, and I'm not sure who that was. Kylan Bruce is still in the pits, but there was a car sitting backwards, and I don't know who that was right offhand, so let's see if we can find who that was. I believe that might have been Hemperly, and it looks like Hemperly has gotten it back going, though, but has lost a lot of places. While we've been live here the last little bit, there have been some things in the background that we've missed, so we're going to go to a PTR TV replay really quick. Let's check out what's happened. So Hemperly had a moment here, and this is what happened with Hemperly. This is just a single car spin, loses it a little bit there with a bit of a wiggle, drops it to the grass, gets it going, does just fine. Ben Bechtel had a moment as well here. Benjamin Bechtel, I apologize to Mr. Benjamin, just going slow here, kind of trying to hold the car on the track, keep things going, able to catch it back up. It just runs a little bit wide, a little bit off track there, so it kind of flagged on our side. Return of the Eric Mack. What happened with Eric Mack here? Eric Mack got tagged for driving slowly on my side. Why was Eric Mack slow? Well, I'll tell you what, when you got two Porsches battling it out hand over fist, you're not going to go too fast. You're going to kind of let them go. Kyle O'Grady, we saw this earlier. I mean, you can see that number 8 just being a lawnmower. And Matt Toppin having a little bit of a moment here in the caddy. What happened with Matt Toppin? And Matt Toppin very, very slow through the corner. It actually isn't anything too bad, just slowing down more than is normal going through, and that is not what he wants. As we will go back to live pictures now, following along with Matt Toppin, as Matt Toppin gets things continuing along here as we go back live, and pit stops still haven't started, but they're not that far away.
Yeah, indeed. A lot of these drivers are going to want to make their pit stops sooner rather than later, because at this point you're really going to start running into the issue of diminishing returns. So we'll just have to see how this all plays out for these drivers, because you come to the point where it's a thing that we talk about called the cliff. It is the point where the tires really start losing grip at a very rapid pace. And I mean, with there being more rocks on track than a rock wall at a gym on circuit due to a few drivers having a little bit of an excursion through the gravel there, it's not going to really do those tires any favors. Now, granted, touching grass is a good thing, just not with slick tires, because slick tires have a little bit of a grass allergy, meaning that they will not really get a lot of grip. And when you're over 30 minutes into a race, and for a majority of this field, you're on that same exact tire that you started on with, those tires are already starting to feel the burn, and they don't need gravel on top of it, as we do see a pit stop happening in the background there. Didn't quite catch it, and that is one of the HKS-themed McLarens that are currently on track, and that is Martin Merkva making his pit stop. And at this point now, you'll probably see a lot of these other drivers file in right behind him. There we have Emily Millicky, and then we have Chris Stewart, and I'm sure there's a lot of other drivers going to make their pit stops here soon as well.
Pinero's in. Yeah, so GT3s have decided now is the time. This is really where they need to send things through. We'll see how they do getting in and out of the pits here, and it looks like a pretty good run here. Merkva is going to be the lead car out. Santos Hierro is now into the pits as well as we go, and it's a 22.2 there. Chris Stewart with a 21-second stop. Emily Milke with a 23.4. Little bit long of a stop there for Emily Milke, and that is going to cost Emily a little bit of time compared to Chris Stewart here. So we're about to see some more Porsche battles really shape up and out as they continue along. So keep your eyes on the battles on the run out. Again, as a reminder, in Elbows Out, they have to take the mandatory 4 tires. So they cannot pit for just fuel and keep those nice warm tires and just run back out and run. They have to take 4 sets. Well, not 4 sets. They have to take 4 tires, 1 on each corner of their respective manufacturer, which I'm going to tell you is Michelin, because that's what makes the most sense. But it, of course, depends on what spec they're running here. Is Nathan Hemperly is going to just cruise past Matthew Santriciero there in the battle for 5th right now as it stands in GT3M competition. Let's continue to watch them as they go through. Parker Chiapuzzo, again, just running through. Nobody into the pits again this time by as they go. We've only had 2 DNFs. Callan Tobin, Kylan Bruce are only 2 DNFs on the night, and they will, unfortunately, not be joined by anyone yet as we continue to watch drivers battle their way through.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably going to be sooner rather than later, as we do see Mr. Dwight Hibbs coming into the pit lane there in the Acura. And the Acura NSX GT3 car making his pit stop. And you're probably going to start seeing these GTP cars make their pit stops in soon as well, because they got to be feeling the burn. Actually, yeah, Eric Mack makes a pit stop in that Mazda 787B themed Cadillac. So, and I'm sure a lot of the other prototypes will follow suit. Sometimes the undercut strategy does work out very well, but you need to make your outlap count. It's got to be you got to have a almost perfect outlap to really make the undercut strategy work. But we'll see how everything goes. Is Matt Toppin going to make a pit stop? No, he's going around for another bit. A prototype battle in the back. It is Antonio Costa, and I believe that is Bob Carey. So that's actually a lapped prototype car getting passed up by the current overall race leader, the number 13 Brisk Iced Tea themed Cadillac is still in the lead. He's got a very healthy margin to Colin Bourdon. He's got a almost 17, well now it's a 16 second gap, 15 now. So he's navigating through the traffic, but it's really his race to lose at this moment. He's got a very good gap, and I mean, he could just pit in this lap and still get away fairly unscathed.
It's kind of ridiculous to see the gap he has here looking at it. And looking at fastest laps, I mean, you can see why he's running half a second a lap faster currently than Colin Bourdon. So he's just got to continue that along, and he is doing just fine here on the day as we continue through. More pit stops continue. We'll let those scroll through on the right-hand side. Bosselman's in. Stanek is out of the pit lane now, running through. Behind you see Christopher Ondera on his way out of the pit lane, so you can continue to watch them run their way along here as they go. GT3 Pro and Am respectively in. Eric Mack still the only GTP Grand Touring prototype to be in the pits and go through, but we're seeing about 22 seconds on average is the pit stop time we should expect. A 21.8 is a very good time. A 21.1 from Chris Stewart was an amazing time, and you can see it let Chris Stewart jump Emily Milke there in the gap. So Chris Stewart will be holding on to P11 overall currently. Of course, Chris Stewart and Emily not battling it out for position in class, but they would love to have a run at whatever they can find. As our overall GT3 leader at the time, Brian Medley, now into the pits. Now, will Zach Nerney follow through? Zachary will be running around here. Will he take that Valvoline car in? He stays out for another lap. So Zachary Nerney will be credited with a lap lead here, possibly, as he actually crossed the line before he passed Brian Medley. So Zachary Nerney would have to do about 2 more laps to get a lap lead. But we see through Brian Medley, 22.6 in the box, out and about. And with about 25 minutes left to go, again, I'm really shocked we haven't seen more GT3s decide to pit. Or GTPs.
Yeah, you would have thought that the... now, granted, Eric Mack isn't really fighting for a race win here at Zandvoort, starting from the pit lane, but he still had a very impressive drive so far. He is currently 4th overall, so that, I mean, starting from pit lane to being 4th overall is pretty impressive. But yeah, I'm surprised that didn't trigger more pit stops. I mean, I know Eric Mack is about 12 seconds away from Aiden Garcia there in P3 in the number 799 Cadillac, but yeah, I would have figured that would have maybe prompted some of the other prototype cars to make their pit stop, and still we're not seeing any of these cars making pit stops. I believe that was Aiden Garcia actually there, or Colin Bourdon, one of the GTP cars behind Eric Mack, also didn't make a pit stop. That is Colin Bourdon. But yeah, it's interesting to see that we haven't seen any more of these prototype cars make the pit stops. I mean, maybe they're waiting until the last 15, and then they can go light on the fuel load and enjoy the fresh new tires. But yeah, I'm equally surprised as you are.
Zachary Nerdy into the pits here. One of the final GT3 drivers that needs to come in, Parker Chiapuzzo, the only other driver that I'm showing needs to actually pit in the GT3 category, and Zachary Nerdy will be just dropping down the order currently as it stands and continues along here. But running long, definitely a decision, and again, with fresh tires, can push a little bit harder for the final 22 minutes. Maybe a good decision. Only one way to find out here. Only time will tell as Zachary Nerdy will come through. Still looking for Parker Chiapuzzo, our final GT3 driver to pit, and then all of our GTPs still need to pit, starting with Antonio Costa. 22 minutes left to go here in this race, and I tell you what, Patrick, since you're in this week, why don't you tell me who we should ride on board with?
Oh, you're giving me a lot of choice. Since he's had such a strong race so far, I mean, even this lead is going to get even further now with Colin pitting. Let's go on board with our current race leader of Antonio Costa.
All right, Antonio, do not pit right now while we're running this little segment here and taking a quick second here. 20 minutes left to go. We're going to go for some temporarily loud engines here on PTR TV. Enjoy the sights and sounds of Antonio Costa carving his way through traffic. Don't go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen, because I'm sure he'll be in the pit soon. And we will be... Actually, I'm going to hold on for a second before we do this, because Antonio Costa has got himself in one heck of a position. It's a heckin' scary time for him as he goes through and battles it around, and I'd say at the end of this he'll be in the pits anyway, so we're gonna hold on, wait until he goes into the pits, and then we'll do some temporarily loud engines. Sorry to kind of scare you there with it, but if you look, I mean, look at everyone that's in. Chiapuzzo is now in the GT3 AMs, but Garcia's in, Bechtel is in, we have Colin Bourdon that came in, Eric Mack in, and there's our race leader, but we didn't cut yet, who is now coming in and will take on some fresh runs. So now Matt Toppin, what will Matt Toppin do? He stays out for another lap and goes back onto the lead lap, as Antonio Costa will have a very, very good pit stop if he can. As Ben Bechtel, well, I see the front end of that car, and I see the front end of another car there, and I'm going to tell you right now that those cars should not look like that. So let's see if we can find what might have happened to them really quick here. We'll get a PTR TV replay while our leader is in the pits. And, here is what happened with Colin Bourdon. Here is your PTR TV replay as they go through, and Colin Bourdon, just a big wiggle on his own and a hard hit. How did Ben Bechtel get damaged, though? That is the one I need to figure out. Here's Benjamin Bechtel. I mean, looks fine there. Through the gravel a little bit, kicked some gravel on the track, and oh, that's how Benjamin Bechtel got damaged.
Yeah, just a bit of understeer out of the corner there. Maybe took on a bit too much gravel on top of the fact that his tires are basically well done steaks at this point of the race. Yeah, I mean, two drivers having incidents on their own, and it's going to really increase the pit time for those drivers. They got to go ahead and get a new front bumper. Now, granted, weight reduction is a very important part when designing a car, but there is certainly a way better way to do that than plowing your multi-million-dollar prototype hypercar into one of the walls here. So, but good to see that they didn't really collect anyone else. It was just solo accidents, and the most unfortunate thing is, like, if we saw what we had earlier on lap 1 involving Bob Carey, where he had a mistake on his own and ended up collecting a few drivers with him.
Yeah, it is fortunate to see that there. Ben Bechtel has left the server, so Benjamin Bechtel has now retired out and will be out of this session. Matt Toppin still needs to pit. Bob Carey needs to pit, but everyone else has been through the pits. So with that being said, 18 minutes left to go here in this penultimate round of Elbows Out Racing. The final 60-minute round here around Elbows Out as they go. Remember, next week you'll have an extra 30 minutes of action. It'll be 90 minutes around the Nordschleife. That is what I'm excited for. I think it'll be great, of course, with the Nürburgring 24 not very far away either. So just kind of, everything setting up, and it's going to be a great run there, and we'll see how things go. But let's go ahead and enjoy some temporarily loud engines here. We're going to take you on board, brought to you by Whiplash SimCams. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to let you just ride on board, enjoy the sights, enjoy the sounds, and we'll be back in just a moment. All right, ladies and gentlemen, under 15 minutes to go. Actually, 14 minutes to go. I couldn't have timed that much better if I tried as we go through here. It's Patrick Coleman and Brad Dalton here in the booth for you, bringing things out for this final run here for Elbows Out Racing as they go. Currently watching our overall race leader, Antonio Costa, who we've been on board with, enjoying the beautiful sounds of that car, and really just kind of seeing what he can put together while he's been running through and keeping that battle competitive. Of course, Brian Medderly is your leader in GT3 Pro, currently holding on to a 4-second lead over Martin Merkva. And then Emily Milke is currently running about 10 seconds clear of Christopher Ondera, who is back just in the mix. Emily Milke, of course, in the mix there with GT3 Pros running for the top 5 in the overall GT3 battle, which you do have to look at. After pit stops, things have really sort of settled down here, Patrick, as they go. So nothing too wild happening at the moment, which for some drivers is a blessing, some drivers is a curse. But either way, 13 minutes left to go. Now it's time, if you have any elbows left, to get them out.
Indeed, yeah, especially with it coming down to the final 13. Well, now a little less than 13 minutes left to go on track. And time flies when you're having fun. So this timer is really going to feel like it's about 2 minutes instead of 12. You got about right around 5 or 6 laps left to go in this race, roughly. That might be a incorrect number, but it's around that ballpark, depending on what car you're currently driving. But yeah, I mean, all the leaders have a very solid lead. I mean, Antonio Costa with that 43-second lead is incredible, and Emily as well with a very substantial lead in that Porsche. 11 seconds now to Christopher Ondera. So this is a driver that we may be seeing in the GT3 Pro category next season. Can't wait to see if Emily does indeed make that jump. But also, I mean, a lot of these drivers in this GTM category can really take the fight to these GT3 Pros. And usually those battles are some of the best ones we see all day long. But also, we know that the GTP cars can also really spice things up here, and this has really been a race of ebbs and flows. At the start we had high drama, and now around the middle part we had a little bit of a calm down, and then spiked again for a little bit, and now we're just pretty much drivers just trying to get to the end of the race.
Yeah, as they continue along here, into the race is the goal, and I do want to point out that this gap you see up here in the front in GTP overall is accurate. It's 42 seconds between Costa and Toppin. Because, well, actually, here's the other problem. Matt Toppin hasn't pit yet. So actually, your gap is like 52 seconds back between Antonio Costa and Aiden Garcia. Someone tell Antonio Costa he can absolutely slow down a little bit, because this is a bit ridiculous when it's all said and done here. Aiden Garcia there looking to be in a very good place. Eric Mack might be on for a top 3 here, possibly a top 2. Let's see what happens as he goes along, trying to just find some time here. Matt Toppin's still out and about, 10.5 minutes left to go. Just keeping my eye on some different things through the field. Parker Chiapuzzo has closed this gap to under a second to Christopher Ondera, so looking to try to get another position up there for the McLaren against the Porsche. Is it doable? I definitely think it could be. Just keep your eye on that as they go and continue along. They're going to keep trying to fight tooth and nail to the end. Trying to see any other big close battles that could be happening. Tyler Stanek has managed to close in under a second to Chris Stewart here just ahead. That will be a Porsche versus Mustang battle, as that gap is actually about 3/4 of a second as they come out of the final corner.
Yeah, I mean, we're down to less than 10 minutes left to go of this race, and these battles are going to be very, very spicy. I mean, like we're seeing the battle here on your screens at the moment between these two very rapid and very talented drivers of Chris Stewart, who is in the number 515 Porsche, currently on your screen, and then Tyler Stanek, who has been rapid all night in that number 33 Mustang there. So two drivers fighting for P3 in class for the GT3 Pros. And these drivers are going to give it the good old college try to make these positions, or to prevent other drivers from making those positions. We'll just have to see. I mean, you're going to run out of time here, because now you're really at a stage of the race where it's all coming to a head. And like I mentioned earlier, with the ebbs and flows of a race, things are going to really start ramping up here as we get closer and closer to the closing stages of this race here at Circuit Zandvoort.
And as they continue to try and battle it out here, things just continue to ebb and flow here as it runs. Tyler Stinek now 1.2 seconds off. We jump back to Andera and Chiapuzzo. Gap 8/10, 7/10, 6/10 of a second as they go. It really just depends on where they're at in the corner, how that gap open and close. Words are hard. That's all I've got. How the gap opens and closes.
Yeah, words are pretty tricky sometimes, I will admit. But hey, it could be worse.
I blame it on everyone else. We of course talked there during the quick break about real life things, real life adulting things, and I blame it on that because I don't know if you all know this, and anyone watching the stream, surely you know this. Adulting is hard, and 0 out of 10 would recommend adulting if you can help it. So, yeah, that's what I'm going to blame it on because I don't have a good excuse otherwise for why I can't say words. As we watch these battles continue to rage on through the field, 7.5 minutes left to go. And again, I say, Antonio Costa, you can relax a little bit. But here's the thing, to look at. If you're Antonio Costa, you're not going to relax because what happens if you relax? You get thrown off your rhythm and you're more likely to make a mistake. So as counterintuitive as it sounds, and you might be saying, well, he can woe up. He can just coast to the end. He's better off to sit here and push to the end.
Yeah, because like you said, he's in that rhythm. He's in that flow state. So, I mean, you're better off. Granted, it's going to put more mental and physical stress on you as you're working the wheel through this track. But at the same time, messing up that flow state can mess up your entire race. He could, if he gets out of that flow state and relaxes too much, he could DNF. And despite the fact he's got about almost a solid 1 minute gap, at least close to that ballpark, it could be all for nothing if he doesn't finish. And in the words of a famous race car driver, to finish first you must finish.
Couldn't have said it better myself here on board with Costa. You hear the backfire out of the Cadillac going through in the downshifts as we go through. I mean, he's got 6 minutes just to finish it out. I wonder if he's beginning to feel like a rap god, and if someone got that reference, I tell you what, contact me, and I will get you a PTR TV Wendy's coupon. May or may not be good to actually use at Wendy's, but hey, listen, it's the thought that counts here. Antonio Costa trying to go through. We hop on board with Parker Chiapuzzo as he goes through, and well, if you're wondering who just passed him there on that left-hand side, that was, I believe that is Matt Toppin, actually, who just went through, who just flew through, and now will continue to run around and just kind of says, okay, bye-bye, as they go. That battle will continue to rage on between Chiapuzzo and Andera as they try to battle it out to the end of the race. Just, trying to go as quickly as they can and keep it moving. Well, it says Chiapuzzo versus Chiapuzzo. No, there we go. Chiapuzzo to Andera. Gap half a second, still closing. I think Parker Chiapuzzo is in a good position to get this done.
Sometimes your biggest rival is yourself. So, I mean, that battle isn't exactly far off. But, yeah, I mean, indeed, he's in a really good spot right now. And Daniel Pinheiro, I don't know if he had a bit of a moment there or just kind of eased up a bit to let the Cadillac through. I'm thinking more of the latter, but anything can happen here on this track. It is a very tricky track as we're seeing a really spicy battle up here between Chris Stewart and Tyler Stenek right now. The number 33 Mustang and the number 515 Porsche once again fighting tooth and nail. They are fighting so hard for this position now. It would be for third in class. So this is for a class podium here in the GT3 Pros, and there in the background is Colin Bourdon, currently in second place in the prototype after Matt Toppin finally made a pit stop as we're down to less than 5 minutes left to go of this race here at Zandvoort.
It's kind of ridiculous to see where we're at here as they go. You got to just kind of watch, be patient here, see what happens, and because things are going to go very quickly. It's going to get very interesting very fast here as this battle's going, we have Aiden Garcia who's under pressure by none other than Return of the Mac as he goes through. Eric Mack in fourth now comes through and past. That is Christopher Ondera, who he just went past, and now this battle comes out of nowhere for a battle for the podium overall. Aiden Garcia, Eric Mack, gap half a second. If you are Eric Mack, you've got 3.5 minutes to get this going. If you're Aiden Garcia, I don't know how well you can defend an Acura against a Cadillac, but by golly, you are going to find out here with 3 minutes left to go. It is all popping off here in elbows out to finish this race out. And Eric Mack, can tell you what, if there's a driver that I know is fast, it is this driver right here, Eric Mack, coming off of the final corner. Down the hill we go. Down into turn one, Eric Mack keeping everything very, very well thought out. Let's see what can be found here for Eric Mack. Now, can you use the GT3 to kind of pick your way through traffic? Can you use that opportunity? Well, you're going to try as Aiden Garcia goes for the desperate dive down the inside, turns to the outside. That's the number 31 there going through. That is going to be Zachary Nerney, who's holding on. Eric Mack with a great pass there around to the outside. Did lose a little bit of time, though. 2.5 minutes left to go. And I'll tell you right now, this is one of your biggest battles on track because it's for P3 of the race.
Yeah, I mean, Eric Mack has had a magnificent drive here. He started in the pit lane, now fighting for a potential podium and getting tantalizingly close to the back of Aiden Garcia there in that number 799 Acura. He's being chased by a number 19 Cadillac. So this is really going to boil down. They really only got about 2 laps left to go of this race before it's all said and done here. And I do see the magnificent drive low thing up there. That's fun.
Let's make sure you caught
yeah,
that.
It's a very good... It's a good pun for a good driver.
It's a good pun. A great pun, even, as we go through. He'll have about 2 laps to try to clear this one. Maybe 3 if he's lucky. Aiden Garcia, Eric Mack will continue to try to fight it out. Let's see where they go. Half a second the gap there. Further back, Tyler Stinnett, Chris Stewart, 0.7 of a second the gap. Parker Chiapuzzo is under pressure from Nathan Hemperly now. Gap 0.3 of a second as they come down the main straight. Slipstream will be there to play for. Down into turn one, will the pass get done? Certainly going to look for it. Nathan Hemperly looks to the inside of Chiapuzzo. 60 seconds to go, and I tell you what, these guys are going to make me work here in the final 60 seconds. They're going to make you work as well, Patrick, as they come through here. And Eric Mack has lost the gap because Emily Milke has gotten in the way, and that, I think, is going to neutralize this battle with under 60 seconds to go. But back in the back, Hemperly still trying to chase down Chiapuzzo. Gap under a minute here as they go. Let's see what happens as they come through. We hop on board. Hemperly looking inside, looking outside, looking everywhere. Late dive, no Formula One. Danny Rick, last and late breaker moves to be found, and Nathan Hemperly still sitting there. 30 seconds left to go in this race.
Yeah, you really got to pick your moment on Zandvoort. You got to be really dialed in and make a move that's going to count, because it's a coin toss, really, because sometimes you can make a risky move and it works, and other times you're going to end up off track into the car next to you, or overall just with your race ruined. And we're now down to the final, right about 10 seconds left of racing to go, as Antonio Costa briskly just cuts through that GT3 traffic like a hot knife through butter, and he is going to wrap up this race. He's only got 1 more corner left to go. It's been a dominant drive here from the American driver in the American machine. He is questioning what on earth is a kilometer as he slingshots through the final corner. The checker flag is waving. Antonio Costa wins here in Zandvoort, and man, oh man, what a drive. And it looks like Brian Metterly is going to go ahead and take this for the GT3 Pro category.
Battle's still happening on track. I didn't know if we'd get a bonus lap or not there, but Antonio Costa is through, and this is how big the gap is here. As Matt Toppin in second place is now going past Brian Metterly here, just now coming into the final couple of corners. Aiden Garcia there in third will come through and around, and I believe that this will actually settle things out there as more drivers are continuing to pass through and around, and Matt Toppin brings home a great second place. Aiden Garcia gets caught up in traffic there. Matt Toppin will take second place in the GT3 Pros, but Brian Metterly just behind. It's been a great run from Brian, going through with a 5-second lead to boot. is going to win in GT3 Pro. Emily Milke a bit further back, possibly going to try to have a run here into the final corner. Tyler Stanek, gap half a second to Chris Stewart. Too little too late to get on the podium there. In the GT3 Pro's final few runs are coming through. Emily Milke will come across the line and win in the GT3 AM category yet again. Emily Milke, a late addition to this season, but I tell you what, has been a star from the start. And I would say if you're Emily Milke, I'm excited to see what next season has to bring for Emily. But Antonio Costa, the name of the day, the winner overall. And let's see, does Antonio Costa give us any sort of victory donuts, burnouts, anything fun? Let's find out here. It goes across the start-finish line again. And Antonio Costa, what are you going to give us? Anything? It is a pull off to the side there. It looks like they're going to park it up. They want the photo opportunity. And do you blame them?
Oh, not in the slightest. I mean, these drivers fought tooth and nail, and it was a fantastic race from all these drivers. So well done to our GTP prototype podium sitters here. And well done to everybody who's finished race. There's the donuts we were looking for. Hopefully they got a few sprinkles in them. But yeah, once again, fantastic race, as it always is here at Elbows Out. And these drivers put on a mighty fine show here today.
Big shout out also needs to go to Martin Merkva here, finished second in the GT3 Pro category. Didn't talk about Martin a lot, but Martin certainly with a great race there today. But now that we've got that through, let's go through your full screen results here. The GTPs will kick things off, and it was after 41 laps here around Zandvoort, very quick laps. Antonio Costa with a 53.3 second lead over Matt Toppin. Aiden Garcia in third, Eric Mack in fourth. Fifth place was Colin Bourdon, Bob Carey in sixth, Dwight Hibbs and Ben Bechtel in eighth, DNFing out of this race. Then we go on to the GT3 Pro category, and we're going to have Brian Medderly with Martin Merkva there in second, Chris Stewart in third, Tyler Stanek in fourth, Zach Nerney P5, Daniel Pinero in sixth, Ethan Murphy and Callan Tobin in eighth place there. Those are all your GT3 Pros. And then in GT3 AM, it was Emily Milke from Texas who gets the win, a lap up on Christopher Ondera, Parker Chiapuzzo, Nathan Hemperly, Matthew Santor-Sierra, Seth Vosselman, Kyle O'Grady in seventh, Kylan Bruce in eighth, and Andrew Parker in ninth place. And I tell you what, who do you want to start out interviews with? Interviews are an option here. We're going to grab a couple of drivers here and get some interviews going when they are here and available. We'll give them a second here to jump in and get going. We have Brian Medderly available. So I'll tell you what, Patrick, how do you feel about interviewing Brian Medderly and getting his perspective on this race?
I think that's a fantastic idea to get just a general opinion of how the race went from the perspective of our GT3 Pro winner.
And Brian, hello, how are you?
Good evening, guys. How are you?
I mean, with how today's race went, I could not complain.
Was it great? I couldn't get to watch much.
Well, I mean, you basically had a front row seat because you were in the driver's seat and you had a front row to the top step of the podium. So overall, how do you feel that you did this race?
I mean, finishing P1, I can't complain too much. I have not run this track in GT3 until an hour before race time tonight. So overall, I'd say it went pretty well.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's the penultimate race of the season, and that is a very solid result. It's going to do you wonders in the championship standings. Now, we have one more round left to go here at Elbows Out Racing, and it's at the Nürburgring. How confident are you feeling going into the Nordschleife?
I'm a little iffy. I was running some laps earlier this week. I don't know about my pace overall, but feeling comfortable enough to keep it on the track for the whole race. But as far as the rest of the race, with everyone else not running by yourself, I feel like there could definitely probably be some carnage. It's definitely not a forgiving track. One little mistake, and there's very little no runoff, and you're most likely sliding through the grass and into a barrier at some point, and potentially coming back on track into other traffic and then causing a pileup. That's my biggest worry.
Well, I wish you the best of luck next week. Hopefully that doesn't happen for everybody's sake. And I will pass you over to Brad if he has any other questions or comments.
No, I don't have anything there. Brian, great run. Congratulations on the win in GT3 Pro. Anyone you want to thank or shout out before we let you go?
Just my buddy Tyler, finishing a few spots behind me tonight. This is definitely a tough track to pass at, but, thank my family for letting me have Wednesday nights to myself and do this on a consistent basis. And shout out to you guys for putting on a great broadcast each and every week.
Awesome. Thanks, Brian. I think you'll enjoy going back and watching this one. There were a lot of good battles, so you'll have to give me your thoughts after you get to watch it, and we'll definitely be catching up with you next week.
All right, definitely will do. All right, talk to you guys next week.
See ya. I don't see any other drivers waiting to talk to us, Patrick. I think they just don't like us today. I wonder what's going on there, but you know what? That is okay. Sometimes drivers just don't want to talk after a race. And of course, Paul Nye, the donut guy, wasn't here because Paul Nye had to go buy a truck. So how dare he do such a thing? Looks like lots of different things going on here. Let's see what happens for next week. Of course, next week is the season finale, 90 minutes around the Nordschleife. And Patrick, I think that's going to be a good one. Championships will be decided. We'll see who gets to go into the Hall of Fame here for 2025 Season 2.
Yeah, the Nürburgring is such a tough track. Honestly, regardless of the layout, even the GP layout is tricky as is, despite the fact it's only a fraction of the distance that the Nordschleife and this 24-hour layout version are. But I think it's going to be a really fun race. It is a true test on how good are you, what is your pace, what is your consistency like, and overall, how do you keep it on the track? Because that is, I don't think it's a unpopular opinion to say that track is one of the hardest tracks you could possibly race on, maybe the hardest.
It's going to be interesting. I'm looking forward to it here. Antonio Costa, of course, will be going in off of a win. But of course, if you win, then you start from the back of the field the next week because you have to take the penalty there to try to balance out the field. And yeah, there's only one way to know what's going to happen, and that's tune in, of course. Nothing else going on the channel this week until Sunday, whenever Triple Bypass Racing will be live from Talladega. So it's a light week here. Of course, with Memorial Day being on Monday, lots of leagues taking the week off, letting things go through. We'll keep things up to date, though. But of course, that is just the nature of things. Join us next week here on the channel, of course, to get to Wednesday. We have to get through Sunday, Monday, Tuesday first, and plenty of action will be coming back. We'll be back in our busy routine next week. But until then, on behalf of Patrick, my name is Brad. We've taken you start to finish here with elbows out. Be sure to join us next week where we'll take you start to finish yet again. Good night.